Yeah.
I forgot to tell you, I added another movie to Plex. I think it's the one that Lisa told us about. It's like that that Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion movie with the two blonde chicks.
Oh, okay.
Lisa?
I think so.
I think so too. Anyway, we're looking for something down to watch. That was a good candidate.
Okay. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going really well. How are you?
No complaints.
Awesome. I like that. Too many windows in this house. All right, let's do it this way. Try not to blind you.
It's all good.
All right, so I'm your volunteer for today's session. I'll be helping with any technical issues that may or may not pop up. And then I'll also be playing a quick video introduction at the beginning. Just the whole, thank our sponsors from the DSW team.
Yeah, I've seen the video a
stuff.
couple times. I've had a couple of teammates do presentations earlier, so I've watched
Nice.
those. So know what to expect on that front.
Oh yeah. So that's pretty much it. And then my video, and I'll mute myself. Those will all be off, and so it'll all be on you. And I'll help with any issues if they come up, and we'll live stream this on YouTube. Once I start the webinar, about 5 minutes till, people will be able to enter and watch from Zoom. And then you have your typical question, answer, chat box, all of that stuff. If anything's not working, or if you want to test out a presentation, we should do that now. And then I am also going to go ahead and make you co-host so that you have pretty much as much control as I do.
Okay, awesome.
There you go.
Let's see. Oh yeah, polls. Excellent. Yeah, when I did the initial kind of check-in thing, we couldn't get the polls thing to work. So that's working now.
I've had that happen before too. I'm not really sure. Sometimes it likes us, sometimes it doesn't. And we don't always find the rhyme or reason.
My guess might be that there wasn't a previous poll set up already, so that's why it wasn't showing up. But either way, it's here now. Yeah. And it was also like, it was a last minute addition. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. I should add a poll. So that's cool.
Great. But you can launch the polls?
Yeah, I see it right there.
Okay, cool. It does help. Yeah. It does also help if you create it beforehand, and that way you can just hit launch and you don't have to type it while you're talking. So if you do have a poll in mind, I suggest you get it.
Oh no, it's already prepped up there. I sent the head of growth team the poll in advance. So. Oh, nice.
All right, awesome. Well, they've got you taken care of then.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. I guess the one thing that I want to do real quick, if it's cool, gonna test the share screen just because I'm less. We use Google Meet at my company, so obviously I've Zoomed because this is the world we live in. But let's see. Are we able to do it by tab as well, or no?
Yes, so you can do tab or window, and then if you are sharing anything that's a video content, make sure you click the buttons on the bottom that say optimize for video and share computer sound.
Okay, we don't have to worry about that. Video-wise, we're going real lo-fi. All right, so let's see. I'd say who can share, all panelists, or
yeah. So instead of clicking the button like the arrow, just click the the box.
Yeah. I see. And well, I'll just do this. There we go, that window. And then from here, I could just.
And then you hit present, and then it'll take away your tabs and everything. I do believe, so I don't know if you're working on one monitor or two, but you should be able to present.
Looks like present to a meeting. Yeah, but.
I just hit the regular present button. So over.
Yeah, I'm just gonna.
Box.
There we go. I'm hidden by my own screens. Okay. All right, cool. Okay, sweet. And then I'm gonna just move this little bar around because that also answers my
bar. So that's not coming through for me.
Oh, what's not coming through?
I don't see a bar that you talked about moving. It's
no. I meant for my own, the mute stop video participants.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, that's not showing
I don't
up.
want that to come through to y'all. So
yeah,
that was more. I'm like, okay, cool, because that way I can kind of monitor the chat and Q&A as it goes on. But you can see the main screen.
Yep. It all looks fine.
All right, sweet. Okay, awesome. Well, that's easy enough. The only hiccup I just had to move the screen with our faces so that I could find the present bar, but
yeah,
that works. All right, and then let me just. Oh, and then I just click stop share. There we go, and now we're back in the Zoom.
Awesome. Cool. And your audio seems to be coming through fine. I don't hear any background noise. I will mention I did see your hair move, so I don't know if you've got a fan blowing on you, but
I've got a window open just because it's a little stuffy in here, but I'll probably close it before we actually get started. Or I'll close the window that's directly adjacent to me.
Okay. All right. No worries. I mean, your hair can move. I don't think many people will notice it. I'm just one of those people. I was like, that's funny.
Listen, I view this like a photo shoot. I just want to have that, that illustrious breeze coming in.
Obviously,
let the lot flow.
Yep. Very awesome. Well, cool. So yeah, I guess if you're all ready to go, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself and put the video title screen as the present, and then I'll start the webinar so people can start getting into the channel, and you can take it from there.
All right, sounds good.
All righty.
Welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Tammy Dorr, President and CEO of the Downtown Denver Partnership and co-chair of Denver Startup Week. This year marks the 10-year anniversary of Denver Startup Week. DSW has been the catalyst for lots of change over the past decade. And this week, we're coming together to celebrate the past and dream big for the future. We are able to bring Denver Startup Week to this community thanks to our 2021 sponsors. Thank you to our HQ and title sponsor, Amazon, and our title sponsors whose leadership makes this week come to life. Capital One Cafe, Downtown Denver Partnership, Fluid Truck, Hotel Engine, and WeWork. And our track sponsors who have made all of the great content you're hearing today possible, our founder track sponsor, Kickstart, growth track sponsor, Friday Health Plans, developer track sponsor, Quizlet, product track sponsor, Palantir, our designer track sponsor, Battery 621, and the Public Works, people track sponsor, Exactly, and spotlight event sponsor, Strat Labs. Our headline event sponsors are bringing the excitement to the week. Thank you to B-Side Fund, Colorado Public Radio, Comcast, Coors Brewing, Denver Pavilions, Entrepreneurship at the University of Denver, JP Morgan Chase, Method, Moss Adams, Pi Insurance, Promontory Mortgage, Path, Southwest, Tattered Cover, and VF Venture Foundry. Finally, thank you to our partner and member sponsors, all listed on the screen. Please say thank you to these companies as you enjoy our hybrid Denver Startup Week. And don't forget, use the hashtag DenStartupWeek to share your experiences and moments of inspiration on social media. Have a great week.
Hello, I'm Sal Gentili, CEO of Friday Health Plans, and we're proud to sponsor the growth track this year at Denver Startup Week. We're a company that just entered a rapid growth phase, so we felt it was particularly appropriate. When my business partner and I started Friday Health Plans 5 years ago, we knew we wanted to create a company that catered to people who bought their own health insurance. The Affordable Care Act was just getting going, and we saw an opportunity to serve a brand new market of health insurance consumers. Independent consultants, startup groups, gig workers, service industry workers, designers, creators, and other independent professionals, like many of you here today. We knew that if we built a health plan that was simple to buy, easy to use, had great customer service, and most of all was affordable, we could compete against the big insurance plans who only focus on serving big companies. After spending 5 years getting into the Colorado market and completing a successful proof of concept, we successfully closed a $50 million round of growth funding earlier this year. We're now about to expand to 3 additional states later this year, hire more than 400 employees to support our growth, and eventually be in more than 10 states by 2025. I wish each of you good luck in your startup and growth pursuits. And as you think about your upcoming health insurance needs, I hope you consider fellow growing startup Friday Health Plans. Open enrollment starts November 1st. Check us out at fridayhealthplans.com.
Hello everyone, welcome to Denver Startup Week. I'm Jake Cohen, the Growth Track Chair and member of the Denver Startup Week Organizing Committee. Thank you for joining us for the 10th anniversary of Denver Startup Week. At Denver Startup Week, we strive to make all of our sessions a space where attendees can connect, learn, and grow. Regardless of age, gender identity, gender expression, race, ability, or sexual orientation. A special thank you to our sponsors for their support in helping us to keep Denver Startup Week free and accessible for all. Thank you for joining us and have a great week.
All right, I think we should be all good to go. I'm assuming thumbs up. All right, hey everyone, I am Jeff Goodsmith. I'm gonna get this underway. Just as a preliminary thing, if you have questions throughout this presentation, use the Q&A section instead of the chat section, just because the chat can kind of get drowned out pretty quickly, and the Q&A will be going into those at the end of the presentation. But with that being said, why don't we launch right into that? All right, here we go. I'm not as good with Zoom as I am. We use Google Meet where I work, so give me just a second. I think we are good. That looks like I'm sharing a screen. All right. Well, everyone, thank you so much for coming to my presentation. I am going to go over Power Up with SEO. It is a guide from going to zero to hero in SEO, just based on my kind of path. So I'm Jeff Goodsmith, content marketing strategist and lead SEO at Click Studios. I'll talk about Click a little bit later. Not too much, don't worry. This isn't going to be a pitch kind of presentation. This is hopefully going to be more for you. So first, let's just look at the agenda. I'm going to start off by just kind of giving you a little background on myself. I have a very atypical journey to get to where I am as an SEO currently. I'm going to also talk about where I am now and what happened in between. I'm going to tell you what helped me get to where I was. I kind of had to learn SEO very quickly due to various circumstances and just necessities. But I'm also going to say how that journey that I took can help you, how you can kind of use your knowledge to build, how you can build your own SEO knowledge, I should say, or just build knowledge in general. I think that some parts of this are kind of going to be agnostic to all sorts of marketing and growth fields. And I hope you can take something away from that. And finally, we'll end with questions and comments from all of you. So I'm happy to answer any questions and comments. All right. So first of all, where I started or how I got into marketing, because I ran out of shows on Netflix. Now, SEO, I love SEO, but I understand that for a lot of people, SEO is not considered the most jazzy. It's not the most exciting field. I love this meme that I got on a marketing board, but it definitely beat what I was doing before, which was literally watching Netflix for hours on end. And that sounds great for a lot of you that are really overworked, but trust me, after a couple months, the fact that you have nothing to do is really frustrating. I literally spent about 9 years working at a job where I was able to do all my work and do it well, but like I'd have 30 hours left in the week to just do whatever I wanted. And there was no growth opportunity. So I needed to kind of switch that out. So this is where we go into the boring resume thing. I always glaze over when I see one of these presentations and someone's like, so this is my job career trajectory. We'll go through this real quick. I basically got a job at a asbestos litigation firm because of the previous recession, and then moved into a research specialist at a marketing software company. That was the said Netflix job. Very comfortable, low stress, no growth or no real kind of challenge. Additionally, I've been a freelance writer since at least 2010, and I've done a lot of other work there, and that did help me with my transition. Other things that I was doing at that time, because again, I had all that extra time on my hands at this job that I was working at, the Netflix job. I did the Second City writing program. I got a master's. I am not saying that you should do a writing program. I'm not saying you should get a master's. But those were really helpful for me because they let me kind of exercise the muscle for learning, which was and I'll talk about this later as well, but that is a huge thing for SEO. SEO is always changing and always adapting. And if you haven't had to kind of learn new concepts in your position, you really need to find a way to like exercise that muscle and learn new things from scratch. And that is what the master's program did for me, as well as, cost a pretty penny. And that led to me getting my initial outreach position at Click Studios, where I am now. So now where am I? So where I started off, I was just doing cold emails for outreach campaigns, and cut to a couple years later, I am now still at Click. We're we are a full service agency. We build websites, but we also do marketing and analytics, strategy design. We're really doing a lot of strategy projects lately. And I'm working with really, really awesome, cool clients. USA Volleyball's national team, Apollo Theater in New York, Northwestern University, kind of going full circle, where I got my degrees from there, and now have them as a partner. It's really exciting. And I'm also seeing real results. Like I am actually seeing the work that I'm doing increasing keyword ranking, increasing traffic, increasing conversions for these really cool clients. And it's really exciting. I'm really happy. It's definitely better than just watching Netflix for 30 hours in a week. Now, what happened in between? I had to learn a lot real fast out of necessity. And that's why I kind of feel that like it's a really good blueprint to learn how to learn something fast, because I had to do that. Now, as I've alluded to, when I started working at Click, I had no SEO knowledge. I knew some SEO stuff. My grad school program had a little bit of SEO discussion, but SEO is still pretty niche, and it's not something that I had direct experience with. I had never worked on an SEO campaign or anything like that. But I did have three things. I had the master's degree, and the eye roll there is because, again, you do not need a master's degree to get an SEO, get into SEO. It just was so useful for me because of the learning part. The first time I had to take a test after years not taking a test almost broke my brain, but it was so valuable. Now, if you're already in a position where you are learning new things and being challenged and having to kind of adjust on the fly, that's as good as a master's degree. That's honestly better. So just consider that the one-to-one comparison. Like that would be your master's degree. I also had a silly blog. I have this website called America Fun Fact of the Day, AFFOTD.com, that I've been writing since 2012. It's very silly. It's just what I want to write. It's usually a lot of weird, odd history facts. And occasionally, I think the most recent article I wrote was I ranked all the characters from Ted Lasso, which is one of my favorite shows. Nothing groundbreaking, but at the same time, over the course of 9 years, I've written over 900 blog posts. And more importantly, I've gotten about 2 million visitors, and I've seen directly what ranks and what gets traffic and what doesn't. And even if I wasn't me learning SEO directly, it gave me an innate ability to kind of see like, oh, this is content that actually has a readership or an audience, and this isn't. And that's huge for SEO. I definitely would recommend, as a takeaway from today, if you don't have a blog or a place where you can post websites, get yourself one, do a $30 domain. You know, it doesn't have to make money, but it really is a great A/B tester where you can see, if I try this, will that work? If I try this, will that work? And just by creating content, that's a great way to kind of build your muscles for SEO. So that really helped me. And I also had a mentor, my boss at Click Studios when I got hired. You know, he hired me because I did bar trivia and I had this blog. Essentially, he says, you have this hustle mindset, you go after things, you have the intangibles that will make you a great SEO. The SEO specific knowledge, we can teach you that. Like, you can learn that. Anyone can learn that. You know, if you have the drive, that's what we want. And so he took a flyer on me, and I'm happy. I'm thankful and grateful to this day for that. And then a couple months after I got the job, my mentor got a crazy good offer. He was offered to move from our team of 3 people to running a team of 18 people with Fortune 500 company clients. Click was his dream job, but he just couldn't say no to this opportunity that was presented to him. And I get it, totally understandable. I was really happy for him when it happened, but it still kind of left me kind of figuring out, like, okay, what are we gonna do? Because now there's just, at the time there was myself and a partner, we were both outreach associates, and we had no SEO North Star guiding light. And then when we were about to hire a new person to run the marketing department here at Click, well, let's just tell you that it happened around late January, early February. It takes us a couple months to kind of hire a high-end position like that. And you can guess what happened next. So I don't need to talk about that elephant in the room. Here's the red panda in the room instead. But as a result, you know, I was, along with my partner, we were tasked to have to learn all the other SEO things that are full service agency provided. So it's not just sending cold emails out to try to get links. And for those of you that are kind of newbies or more novices to SEO, I'll talk about that later. But, you know, I had to learn the other stuff. We were doing launches for big websites, and we had promised certain SEO specs for them, and we had to learn kind of on the fly. So it was very challenging and a lot of work really fast during a crazy time in the world. But I learned a lot of great things about just the industry And I think just in general, universal truths along the way. The first thing I learned is mentors don't go away. My mentor, my boss, he left for his dream job. I was emailing him questions when I was lost and confused. I'm still in contact with him to this day. He leads a great community on Slack that I'm a part of. And whenever there's something that I just can't get an answer to, I post it to that community. He's normally the first person to respond. So, if you're lucky to find yourself a mentor, they don't go away. They stick around. They are vested in your success because, they like to see that. And it speaks also to the SEO community as a whole. I'd say 90% of SEOs are excited for other people to join that community. SEO is such a niche I always kind of jokingly say it's kind of nerdy, but it is kind of nerdy. It's for people that like writing and puzzles. And those are not necessarily the most, popular topics, but I love writing and I love puzzles. And that's why I love SEO. And as a result, there's an infectious kind of excitement whenever you see someone that is trying to learn SEO and they want to learn SEO. Literally, you can message a stranger SEO on Twitter, on any social media, LinkedIn, and 9 times out of 10, they're going to happily answer your question, which you don't see in a lot of industries. There's just not this competition, cutthroat mindset. It's really about lifting each other up. And it's one of my favorite things about SEO. And I also learned that there's a real thrill in having something that not too long ago was a completely foreign concept, and then explaining it to someone that had no knowledge of it previously and getting them excited about that concept from you explaining it from the way that you've learned it. It's a really thrilling, exciting thing. And it's one of the best things with SEO because 98% of people have no idea what SEO is. And a vast majority of those people, if you describe it the right way, they go, oh, that's interesting. And they get really invested. And that's a really cool thing to get to that point when I was that person, that 98% only a couple of years ago. Now, this is the important stuff for you. Let's talk about how you can learn or continue to learn SEO. So I know that some people here probably have some SEO experience and some people might have none at all. And that's totally fine. I hope that this gives something for either end of that spectrum and everywhere in between. That's my goal here. But now it's going to be the SEO basics part. So if you are someone that works in SEO or consider yourself an SEO expert, you can just kind of look around at the ceiling, stare around just for the next 5 minutes or so. I swear I'm going to try to make this relatively quick and succinct, but we're just going to talk about SEO basics if you just are coming in here fresh. My literal definition, what I had in my job interview at Click, was that the internet is a big place. SEO makes it smaller for you. I know we have a couple people from Click on this call right now, and they are rolling their eyes because I literally have this slide or a version of it with every single SEO presentation I give to every single client we have. So they're tired of hearing this, but I still think it's a really great way to just kind of take the nebulous idea of SEO and make it very straightforward. It's just, you're going to get found on the internet. That's what we're doing. Now, before we get into the basics, which I'll do real quick as well, let's dispel some SEO myths because there are a lot of myths about SEO out there. Number one, SEO is dying. Every year since about 2014, there's been an article or a couple articles released that say SEO is dying. And it's always released around December. I'm guessing that there's some, and honestly, there's some SEO reasons behind that because they're looking for year-end lists and things like that, and people are going to be clicking. So SEO is not dying. SEO is always evolving. 15 years ago, what SEO was a bunch of people just filling in keywords on pages. It would be people putting all the keywords they want to rank for in white text on a white page that you can't read and you can't see, but they think Google will pick it up. That was SEO 15 years ago. SEO now is a completely different beast. SEO 15 years from now, completely different beast as well. We don't know where it's going to be. We have an idea of where it's going to go, but it's always evolving, and there will always be SEO as long as there are search engines. So as long as Google is a thing, there will need to be people that know how to get the content that Google is going to prefer, and that's not going to go away anytime soon. The other myth, and this is one of the ones that I am always most annoyed by, is that people think SEO is about tricking Google. And I'm not annoyed at people that just think that casually. I am annoyed by people that perform SEO that way. Because there are a lot of ways that you can trick Google now, and you can rank for a topic or a term by doing X, Y, Z. And I guarantee in a year or two, that page is going to be completely disappearing from Google because Google doesn't want you to trick them. They want you to provide something that has service for their users. So anyone that thinks it's about tricking Google, it's not. It's about good content. It's about creating content that people actually want, which is really the best kind of marketing. It's having to know your audience and then provide something for your audience. That essentially is SEO. The other one, and this one, thank God for this one, because I thought that maybe you need to learn how to code to succeed at SEO. Nope, I am not a coder. I was, as you saw in my little boring slides, I'm an English major with a marketing master's. I think I can do italics, underline, and bold, and a paragraph break on HTML coding, and that's it. That's all I can do. You do learn things like how to inspect a page and like search for stuff within a code, but I will never have to learn coding. What I did learn was if you work with developers, and we have some amazing developers at Click that I work with, if you're nice to them and they like you, when you ask them for stuff that does the coding stuff that will fix SEO issues, they are happy to do it. Much better than learning how to code, in my opinion. So if you're worried about, if your barrier to entry is, I don't know how to code and I don't know if I can learn how to code, that's not a barrier to entry. Most SEOs I know are not really coders. Some are, but most aren't really, because I think it's a lot more about content than it is about, code specifics. And so that kind of alludes to, I've mentioned technical and I've mentioned on-page content stuff. So again, if you're an SEO knowledgeable person, you can look around, it's totally fine. But for the people that are newer to SEO, here are the 3 buckets that at its core, you can kind of have SEO described as. There's on-page SEO, and quite simply, that is just the stuff that you can do on your own page that can improve your ranking. The main thing for that is going to be content. Content is the most important area of focus for SEO in general. Google's algorithms are getting better and better literally by the month. They make hundreds and hundreds of updates a year to their algorithm with the main goal of they want their results to be good quality content. So content that's enjoyable to read, that is relevant, that answers questions. You essentially want to have content that is, purposeful is important, but also if you are addressing a need, addressing a want, or answering a question with your content that your customer base will have, that is going to be number 1 on Google. If no one else is writing about like, what temperature should I store, what temperature should I store a red wine? And you work at a liquor company or a liquor distributor, and no one's really answering that question. You write an article that says, here are all the temperatures you store your wine. That is relevant to the people that are going to be looking for your product. You want to create that article or that content for them. So content, most important thing on on-page SEO, and in general for SEO as a whole. Now, there are other on-page SEO things that you can control. The meta description, which is the little description that you have on your search engine results page that describes your page. Alt text, which is the text that describes what an image is. That's both good for accessibility and SEO. Your titles, your H1s and H2s, your headlines. That's where keywords come into play. URL structure and linking. All of this is stuff that if you are on a page and you're writing an article and you're posting it, you have complete control of that because you are on the page. This is all your on-page SEO things. And these all have some impact one way or the other. Then there's the second bucket, which is technical SEO. This kind of talks about how easily your site is to be crawled and found by search engines. It also talks about page speed and security optimization. You need a fast, secure, mobile-friendly page, and all of those kind of fall into the purview of the technical aspects of your website. This is where your developers and being friendly with your developers comes into play really, really well. Certain technical SEO things are like site security. That's an SSL certificate, which that's the HTTPS. It's what gets you that S for HTTPS. It's a very easy, quick and dirty certificate to get and apply, but it also is really useful and important because it stops your site from getting hacked. Indexation, and that's robots.txt, XML sitemaps. These are all just kind of things that you can implement. I don't need to go too nitty gritty on this because these are all things you can learn on your own as well. There are a lot of articles and I'm just a guy talking to you for about an hour. Performance is a really important thing, and that's page speed. And there's a Google Core Web Vitals. I know our SEOs on here are sick of hearing about Google Core Web Vitals. They have been a big deal for the last year and a half, 2 years. But that's ranking factors that are about page experience, essentially. So just think page experience. And then mobile performance is increasingly important because more and more people are using mobile for their online, work. And so Google wants to have that prioritized, which makes sense. And then the last bucket is off-page SEO, and that is opposite of on-page SEO. SEO on-page is all the things on-page you can do to affect your SEO performance. Off-page is all the things that can happen to your page from other pages and other sources that can positively impact your SEO performance. The biggest thing for that is going to be backlinks. That is people linking to your website. I would say that's the second most valuable thing for SEO. If I had to put it in an order of my opinion, everyone has their own different opinion of this, I should say, but it's number one most important thing, high quality, relevant content. Number two, backlinks from relevant, similar, high authority sites that are considered to be good sites by Google and also just by the general public. And then the third one would be technical security and page experience. But really getting websites to link to your page, it's really just supporting your page. It's saying like, oh, these guys are my source. So they are the people that I learned this from. So if you're writing for a sports blog and ESPN links out to you, Google automatically sees like, wow, ESPN is like the main sports site, and they think this blog is where they're going to get their information from. So they must be worthwhile our users getting their information from that, and they'll bump them up accordingly. So that's kind of the benefit of off-page SEO. Again, like just think about it like it's getting cited by a reputable publication. It transfers that reputability, I guess is the right word, onto you. You are then in their eyes reputable because someone reputable vouched for you and said, this is where I'm getting my information from. Now, other areas of off-page SEO also exist. Backlinks are by far the most valuable, but it also applies to social media and brand reputation. It's review management. That's a big one, especially for local businesses. Google My Business, also huge for local businesses. And it's also appearing on podcasts, guest articles, other PR efforts. That is all off page because it's not happening on your website, but it is either directly or indirectly driving attention or traffic to your site. So again, that's useful. End of the day, SEO is about getting people to your site. That's the ultimate goal that you want to do. And however you can do that is the best way to do that. Whatever works is the best way to work. And for each different website, it's different things that work, but still, you want to do it through those three kind of buckets. Now, all right, so for the people that are looking at the ceiling, we can go back to the part that's relevant. Now, here are my steps on how to improve your SEO knowledge. This is, I guess, the real reason you're here. And so it's not just me talking about myself or talking about SEO a little bit too aggressively. We'll just talk about, these are the steps that I took that got me to the level that I feel comfortable enough talking to all of you about SEO. And hopefully you can glean some benefits from this as well. Now, the main one, and I think this is the most important slide of this entire deck, because this applies to everything. This applies to everything that's not SEO. This is just, if you ever feel like there is something that you do not think you can learn, this is how you learn it. It is simple. I'm sure there are many people that are much smarter and more established than me that have said a much clearer version of this 5-step process, but this is how I view the 5-step process. I'm sure there's 8 TED Talks about this, but my TED Talk is right now. So what you do is if you come across, if you're learning, when I was learning SEO, there are a lot of things in SEO, the big picture things you can say is content's the most important. Getting backlinks is also really important. Having a secure, fast site, really important. That's cool, but there's a lot of minutia within SEO, a lot of things that when I first read them, I was like, okay, I can't put my finger on this. This makes no sense. And the way I kind of got to the point where I could feel like I was at least somewhat of an expert about these things, started with looking for any instances of these terms in any medium that I can find. Then you're going to read, watch, and listen. If you see an article that's about this term, if you see a YouTube video that's about this term, you see a podcast that's covering this term, consume it. Then repeat that process. Look, read, watch, listen. Keep doing that until you can get to the point where you can describe it to a layperson. When you get to the point where you, with your own words, can say, all right, so schema is code that you can put in on a website that tells Google what the page is about with more detail, but doesn't appear in any content or context for the actual person viewing the site. That took me a long time to get to that point. And I know there are a lot of people that are better at technical SEO than me that are still like, well, you're forgetting this nuance and that nuance. But getting to the point where this technical term I can get to where I can describe it simply, succinctly to the way that a layperson, a person that has no SEO knowledge can say, I might not fully understand that, but I at least get a sense of it. That's like a goal. That is a goal. That means that you have mastered that term. You no longer are unsure about that term because you can describe it accurately in your own words. And then crucially, there's the fifth step, which is keep doing what you've been doing. Keep reading up on that, because not only can you not ever let yourself be fully confident that you know everything. The person that thinks they know everything about SEO is probably the person that's going to be the worst SEO you encounter. Honestly, you need to have a sense of continual search, because there's never going to be a final answer, partly because the answers always change or always evolve. SEO is always evolving. And so that's kind of what it comes down to, is you want to look for the terms that are your, let's call them weaknesses. Then you want to consume all the content about those weaknesses until they become a strength. And once they're a strength, you still have to view them as a weakness. Because if you ever let yourself be satisfied with the amount of knowledge you have, that's the point that you stop learning. And I think in general, in marketing and just about any industry, and especially in SEO, the moment that you feel comfortable and not learning anymore is the moment that you get left behind. And so this is an always ongoing process. And I have taken so many courses where 98% of the courses are saying things that I know innately already because I have gone through this process for all those and then some. But the takeaway is there's still 2% I learned new. So you always want to try something new, even if I still go and read beginner's guides to SEO, because I am not a beginner anymore, but I was. And I want to see how they're describing it to beginners, because maybe the way I'm phrasing it is not quite the right way or quite the best way. You just need to have no ego in what your knowledge is and just the ability to kind of move forward. So I know I spent a lot of time on this slide, but I do think if there is a version of this slide, a slide on this that is the most important, it is this one. Now, the next step is to ask questions to anyone who will answer. That's a huge thing too. I asked so many questions when I started. My mentor, God bless him, he had to deal with most of those. But as I said, the SEO is a really welcoming community for that. There are no such things as dumb questions. And I am serious when I say this, if you are trying to get into SEO and trying to level up on SEO and you come across things that you're not sure about or just don't make sense, and you can email me, jgoodsmith@clickstudios.com. I will answer your email within hours. That's a promise. I'm happy to do so, but because I love, one of my favorite things about this job is trying to describe SEO to people, or SEO terms to people if they have questions. I love answering those questions. So don't feel like you're putting it upon me to ask. And a lot of SEOs are that same way. Similarly, the next step is answering questions about SEO really does help you learn SEO. I had the benefit of, I was working at Click. I was having project managers go, hey, this client has this SEO question. I was on the job for 3 months. I didn't know the answers. I had to do heavy research and I'd find the answers, but I was able to give those answers. And having that someone reach out to say, hey, I need an answer to this question, you're the only person equipped to answer it, was a great way to learn quickly. But there are also ways to do that through message boards. Even Reddit SEO channel, it's Reddit. There's a lot of spammy kind of comments there, but a lot of it is people asking basic questions. And the more you just kind of answer and go my understanding is this, the better you can kind of formulate your own views and opinions and just get a better sense of yourself as an SEO and a sense of your knowledge. So There's a couple other forums on here. There's warrior forums. Quora questions have some benefit. There is a Google Webmaster help community, and All In is a marketing community that my founder started. So it's for in-house digital marketing community. If you are in that field, I definitely recommend you join that up. It's really useful. I should say I'm going to aim to share the link to this document, this presentation at the end of the presentation to anyone that wants it, because there are a lot of links here. And if you want to save those links for yourself, I highly recommend you use those. All right. The other thing is you need to understand that SEO is constantly changing. Now, a really good way to think about this is Google is a product. At the end of the day, Google is a product. What they are serving their customers is links. Customers are asking Google a question. Google's giving them the best answer. So you want to make sure that what you're doing is applying to that best answer, because there are no ways to trick it. You want to make the best product for Google to provide. And you also want to avoid tactics that sound like tricks. Like I said, the tricking Google, just a bad idea. And that comes down to, if you're thinking about SEO and content for humans, as opposed to what will the Google crawl bot see, you're going to win every time with humans. That's just the nature of the game. And also, now changes are permanent. Google literally just did a change of title pages where they just rewrote the title pages for results, and people freaked out, and now they're walking that back. So there is some patience. There is some patience required. And again, just constantly being ready to learn and never accepting that you know everything, because you don't. You never will in SEO. No SEO knows everything, no matter what they say. Another thing I did is I set up Google alerts for just SEO terms. I think mine are algorithm update and page experience. And whenever there's a news article about that, or usually it's in the SEO forum that pops up in my inbox, and I scroll through and I'm like, oh, is this that's where you get the oh, is this a term I don't know? Cool, let's read about this. There are other terms you can do, but honestly, setting up a Google alert is the best way to learn about Google, end of the day. Now, also, any and all free, affordable SEO courses you can find is great. Here's a list of them. I kind of got lucky. I guess lucky is not a great word to use there, but because of lockdown, the Moz Academy made all their articles for a time free. So I got $3,000 worth of free Moz Academy courses there. But there are, I think it's still worth it if you want to pick and choose, if you want to pay some money. But there's also, Yoast SEO training is really good. Ahrefs has a great YouTube video channel, which I'm going to talk about later. But there are a lot of free and paid courses that you can find for SEO. And I recommend taking as many as you feel that you can do, that you're comfortable with. If you only want to do free, there are plenty of options there. If you want to spend a little money, there are also options where you can spend a little money and really kind of level up a little faster. Similarly, YouTube videos, Ahrefs, Moz, SEMrush, these are all kind of SaaS products that are SEO forward, that are very SEO focused, that are huge tools. I know I use most of these tools for SEO, but they also have YouTube channels that are really good at explaining the basic nuances of SEO. This is where you get those reps in, that rinse and repeat until you can describe a term. This is how you do that, through videos. I also subscribe to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of them on double time, to be fair. Some are better than others. There are plenty more out there as well, but this is just a list of the kind of podcasts that you can listen to if you're the kind of person that can learn via podcast a little bit better. And then finally, let's see. Then also newsletters. Newsletters are great. That's a little bit less of that's a less invasive way to just you can have an article pop up in your inbox and read them as you want. Some of these are just general digital marketing newsletters. Some of these are SEO specific. Search Pilot's a really interesting one where you can kind of see direct, if we do this, what happens kind of results. But I'm signed up for all of these. I get these in my inbox. I read them all every week. And a lot of them say things I already know, but differently. And that's really important. You want to have as many voices in your head to kind of get to a more singular truth when you're talking about SEO terms. And then also follow smart people on Twitter. These are some of the people that I follow. Brendan is the mentor I have mentioned. His podcast also I mentioned. All In is the channel he's in that I mentioned. All worth following. A couple of these people work for Google. If you're a Twitter user, having these people on your feed, you'll get a lot of SEO specific things. You can follow me on Twitter, but if you're gonna do that for SEO, I don't think that's gonna be a good follow. I mostly talk about Nick Cage movies and Ted Lasso, so do with what you will for that. And there's also tools. So these are a bunch of tools that I use. These are all free. They're either websites or things that you can, like Chrome extensions. A lot of SEO is just playing around with stuff. So seeing how pages perform and then comparing it to other pages is a great way to just get an innate knowledge of, okay, this page is doing really well. This page is not doing nearly as well. What's the difference? And you kind of can piece that together as you do hundreds or even thousands of looking at different websites using these tools. And then there are paid tools. We use all these tools at Click Studios. They are agency tools, but there are different levels. So you can get the enterprise version of these, but you can also get the individual version of these. Depends on how much you want to go into your kind of SEO journey. It's just how much you want to do with that. And I also included some further reading. Again, I'm going to try to figure out how to share this. I think it'll involve me stopping the sharing of the screen while I go into the questions after the questions side. But I will send the link to this document to all of you, because just here's some articles. Some of them are written by me. Some of them are just general kind of how-to articles. And again, read, consume, read, watch, listen. Do that over and over again until you can feel comfortable about something. That is your way to kind of learn anything, really. But that's how I learned SEO. That's how I got to the point where I could feel confident about being an SEO. And these are articles that I bookmarked that are ones that I read early on in my journey. So that's further readings. And now we can go into the questions portion. If you have any questions, drop it in the Q&A. I'm going to briefly stop sharing the screen so I can send you this link to the actual, hold up. I'm going to send you the link to the actual presentation. Oh, just my computer is just hiding it from me, it seems. All right, sorry about this. Real quickly, I'm just, oh, there we go. Gotta get back to gotta get back to Google Chrome. There we go. Sorry, Zoom is still a foreign language to me, even though we've been living in the world of Zoom. So here is, for everyone, the document if you want to check those out. Let's see, I have a couple questions here. I'll go over those. We have decent amount of time for questions. Question number one, we have, what route would you suggest for a business that is mindful of scaling, entering different phases versus working SEO or not? So yeah, one thing with SEO is it is definitely a labor-intensive practice. There are ways that you can do SEO that are not as labor-intensive. I would say the best ways to, this is Marlene's question. I would say that the best way to do SEO from the beginning is you want to start with a baseline of good content. I would say the most labor-intensive part is getting that technical perfectly down and also getting those backlinks, because that usually involves outreach campaigns. That's what I started off my SEO career doing. But if you are doing, if you're trying to get SEO to be a part of your company, your business as you're scaling up, focus on like getting an industry blog, writing content that's going to be very top level answers, and then maximizing your service pages for your bottom level content. And so you will have people discover you by asking questions of like, if you're running a carpenter shop, it's like, what kind of wood is the best in rainy climates? You have an answer to that question. They say, oh, this company is interesting, and I now need to have, some work done on a roof deck. Oh, this is their roof deck services. So focusing on the content of your site, I think, would be the most important thing, at least to get started. Let's see, we have a question from Brian. What do you think about adding Google Stories to your website? Google Stories, I think, I don't know if you need to add them to your website, I would say, but I definitely think utilizing Google's knowledge panel, if you are a business, is really a underappreciated thing. I've seen a lot of businesses that are really good businesses that don't claim their business on the Google Knowledge Panel. And that's another SEO area, because increasingly SEO and search in general, Google tries to keep people on the SERP, the search engine result page, more and more. And by being able to kind of control what goes on the search engine result page, anything you can do will have larger benefits. It might not lead to direct traffic, but it's going to lead to maybe conversions down the line. But also in general, I would say adding content to your site at all is going to be beneficial in the long run. No matter what you do, if you add to your site any content, the bigger your site, the more runway there is for Google to find you. So that's why I'm always big on content, because if you add a bunch of content that's at least relevant and not pointless, don't just fill in, gibberish, actually have relevant content. But whenever you see a realistic opportunity to add something to your website, by all means, take it. So long as it's not something you've already written about before, and it's something that is relevant to your customer base. Now, if you have a clothing company and you're writing about video games, no, that has no value. Even if you get ranking on that, people that are finding you won't be looking for clothing. So that's a waste of your efforts and a waste of your content. So got to stay relevant, but as long as you can be relevant, I think that's really useful. All right, another question we have from Brad. As someone brand new to SEO, I keep hearing about the benefits of SEO for Google. Even though other search engines aren't as popular, are there other SEO rules that apply to non-Google searches? That's a great question. We actually do some work with Bing as well, because we find that even though Bing's a newer search engine compared to Google, because of its Microsoft and because of Microsoft Phone and a lot like that, that is really good for kind of older, like usually like if you're looking for 45 to 65, usually male and more blue collar searches, Bing's really good for that. So we have some clients that we work with that are in kind of the home renovation space, and Bing's a really valuable tool for there. Now, the approaches aren't too different. That's the one thing I'll say. I think that ultimately everyone's following Google's lead, and it is coming down to like the content side of things. But that means there are still other things you can do. With Bing especially, there's a Bing Webmaster tool. It's free. You can tie it to your Google account, which is very funny to me for some reason. But you can always submit like your company's website to Bing Webmaster and say like, hey, Bing, you can like scroll my site, and it makes it show up on Bing faster. And it's a quick and easy thing to do. There's a lot of if you search like how to get my website on Bing or something along those lines, like you will find lots of results to read about. But there are definitely benefits for that. It just depends on kind of your customer base. But yeah, you don't want to just only think Google. It's just Google is the main player. So that's why I just default by saying Google when I talk about those. We have a different Brad, a lot of Brads here. Another Brad is saying, are there best practices for optimizing content on a Shopify collection page? I have content below the products with some main keywords, but not sure how much content I should have and if it should have links to other collection pages. Another good question. So the thing that I have held off on saying is the most common answer you will get with SEO is it depends, because it is such a nebulous kind of area, but it does depend. Now, that being said, in terms of best practices, if you're doing just any content optimization, is think about the user experience on that page. If you have a lot of just text that's saying nothing or not saying anything important for a thing that, if you're writing 600 words for something that only needs 200 words, even though the best practices is, the more content you have, the better. The longer your article is, the more likely you are to rank. Like if you looked at the stats, it would say the most likely thing to be on page 1 on Google is about 1,500 words long or 4,000 words. Those are the two sweet spot numbers. But if you're talking about a 200 word topic in 1,500 words, you're just repeating yourself over and over again. That's a bad user experience, and the algorithm is getting better and better at picking that up. So link internally when it is relevant. If there's a similar opportunity that'd be like, these products are related, yes, 100%. But if you're linking just to link, no. If your description seems like it's too much, then like cut it back a little bit. You just kind of like have to like pretend that you're a customer on that page and see if that would make you more likely to purchase or not. And if the answer is no, I would say don't do something just because you think it will have extra SEO value, because at the end of the day, if 10 more people go to your site because of something you do and none of them purchase and you lose a purchase, that's a negative experience, because conversions are what SEO is really about. You like to get people on your site, you like to rank for keywords, but if you're not selling anything, then what's the point? Just white noise. All right, we got Laura has a question of how often do you adjust website content in an effort to improve SEO for your clients? And how long should you wait to see results after changes are made? Another great question. So I know for Click Studio's content, I'm also on our Writers Guild, and we do a lot of internal content, including some of the articles I linked on SEO. We look every quarter at our content, and we do content pruning every quarter. So we go through our pages that have not been touched for like the last 2 years, and we either update them minorly, do massive updates, and update the publish date. So it's now at, best wireframe tools of 2018 is now best wireframe tools of 2021 and has been updated accordingly. Or we delete content that we think is just not bringing in traffic and isn't relevant. As far as how long you should wait to see results after changes are made, SEO is a slow moving beast. Usually it can happen within weeks, but normally you expect 3 to 6 months. If I'm being honest, if I have of my pages that I've written that rank pretty well, it takes about 2 to 3 months for them to start appearing on Google's radar. There are ways you can kind of speed that up using Google Search Console. But SEO is a game of patience. It's a slow but steady growth. It's the tortoise versus the hare. So always be mindful of that. And also don't freak out when you see big drips or big jumps, because a lot of random things happen. It eventually always evens out. Nate has a question about best practices for adding a chat feature if you're providing a service and not a physical product. So chat features are one of the difficult things for SEOs. SEO, basically anything that uses JavaScript, anything that makes something wiggle on the page, any animation, technically decreases SEO performance. It decreases your performance according to the eyes of Google, because Google hates JavaScript. But JavaScript makes your pages engaging. It is more likely to convert, and something like a chat feature too is also something that can provide value to a client. So I would say the main thing is make sure it's not obtrusive. It doesn't get in the way of anything. Make sure it doesn't get in the way of anything clickable, and make sure it's implemented in a way that will not annoy your user. If it's a subtly placed in chatbot that is natural and is easy to X out of, if you want to X out of it, that's gonna negatively affect the technical side of SEO, but not enough that it's gonna affect your rank too much. But if it actually is providing conversions and leads, then you should have that, because end of the day, that's the most important thing. It's not about, because that's why there is no best practice of SEO. There are some pages that do amazing in conversions that have 9 out of the 10 things you're supposed to do for SEO, they don't do. But really be mindful of the user experience is what I would say for that one. From Marlene again, is there anything you would suggest to avoid when working with SEO in regards to very specific words, content, maybe a copy paste function that makes the work obsolete? I would say not particularly. I would just say generally when you're trying to rank for keywords, realize that you should go for the low-hanging fruit more than the big highfalutin ones. If you're in the credit industry, you're not going to rank for credit cards. That's just not going to happen. Now you might rank for, what are the next steps I should do after losing my credit card? Now, 400,000 people a month might search for credit cards, but it'll take thousands of articles to link to you to rank page 1, whereas 400 people might search for that long tail term, but it only takes 2 or 3 articles linking to you to make you rank page 1 on Google. So one of the tools that I have there on my document is answer the public. And that is an example. That's where you would put down credit card and it would have all the questions you can ask about credit cards. Try to rank for those as opposed to the big terms. And honestly, that question is a blog topic. That's free. That's an easy content right there. You just write 600, 700, 1,000 words answering that question. And you're going to put yourself in line to like succeed on that front. So I'd say low-hanging fruit is always best, especially if you're in a competitive market. And great, oh, hey, Alexis, great tips for titles and headlines. Yes, I would say with headlines and titles, so that I would say H2s, the sub headlines, and your titles, that's the only area where you want to optimize keywords. Keywords used to be you just stuffed keywords into every page. So everyone's like, oh, hi, welcome to, if you're looking for the best used car dealership in Chicago, go to the best used car dealership in Chicago because we're the best used car. That's terrible content. And Google doesn't look for the words appearing all the time anymore in your content. However, when you have it in your headlines, when you have it in your titles, that is telling Google, hey, this is what this is about. And the easier you make Google job on them, the more likely you are, the more likely you are to actually kind of rank, because they will boost you up if you're making their job easier. Oh, I just saw the comment. We need access view for the slides. 1 second. Let me just, I will get that access view right now for everyone. I've been going back and forth between the Q&A and the questions. All right. I'm going to also drop that link again because now anyone with this link should be able to access that document. Feel free to get after it. There we go. All right, I have updated permissions for that. I apologize to everyone on that end. Let's see, do we have, I think that might be all of our questions. Just looking through the chat right now, and it seems like everyone is looking for that document. Cool. All right, now that is working. All right, looks like I have 3 minutes to spare. So, any last minute questions, feel free to drop those in, but otherwise I will let you go about the rest of your day and the rest of your Denver Startup Week presenters and presentations. Really appreciate you all coming out and spending some time with me and letting me geek out about SEO. It's one of my favorite things to do. And so doing it for all of y'all is a real pleasure, and it's been a blast. All right, and enjoy the rest of your week.